This is game number 7 and Furuzia is wide again. And you know how they say that chess is it's really tough because one single mistake can ruin your game. Well, this is a good example of that. Yeah, by the way, this position, if black tries to take here and hoping to mess up white's pawns, I mean, white's pawns look very weak in this endgame, but look at this power along this diagonal and this file. This is better for white, no question about it. So a3, black tries d5. Okay, so we get this position. White's looking for the c5 square. Maybe at some point white wants to go b4, so this makes sense. Now this is on. This is a potential threat because the knight is unprotected. Black gets the two bishops, but in return white's got that square and a pretty nice bishop. Okay, it's not easy to find a good spot for this rook. If the rook tries to go here, then this pawn would fall. And this makes a lot of sense because this bishop now becomes a lot more powerful, and this bishop seems to be cut off momentarily, but cut off. Yeah, this rook is going to have a hard time getting to the d file where he should be. Okay, bishop to f1, maybe f3 to get this bishop to become active. I think when white played bishop f1, he's probably thinking about moves like c5 and threatening bishop to c4. So pretty dangerous. But black's not going to keep steal. And now the knight comes back. Yeah, I don't know whether that move was really necessary. Maybe black could have taken on c3 here, and it's not easy to see how white's rook is eventually going to become active. Okay, looking for that. Got it defended. Pressure against c6. And it does look like this bishop is better than the knight. Rook to d7. The endgame looks very difficult for white because these pawns are so weak. I mean, if you can imagine black's king getting to d6 and c5, that pawn on c4, and possibly the one on c3 later on, would be lost. So rook c4 is a really nice move. Sure, black can play at c5, but that means black's king will never get access to that square. I don't understand why white didn't take on e4 now. It was his best chance. Even though this position, despite being a pawn up, it's still quite difficult for white because this rook has become very active. He's threatening things like this, and these pawns are so weak, you know. So rook to d7, rook takes rook, king takes, and now this is going to be pretty hard to stop. So the end game looks difficult. Yeah, we don't take on g4 because then king here, king takes, and that pawn becomes weak. Yeah, he can attack this one, but it's going to be too late. Yeah, the endgame looks pretty bad. And it's not difficult to see that black's pawn is one square more advanced than the one on h4. I mean, it's a queen ending, not such a huge difference, but if anyone can win this, it should be black, although a draw is the most likely result. And this is such a big blunder. I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, both players probably had less than 4 or 5 seconds left on the clock, maybe even just a couple of seconds. Queen to b4, what a huge blunder. After this, the pawn ending is winning for white. White's going to promote, control this diagonal, and the endgame is just lost. Nothing he can do. Could he have tried something else? Not really. Game over. I don't know why he's making these moves. He should just play these in here, checkmate. But yeah, white ended up winning anyway. All right, let's see our next game. Game number 8. And Carlsen is black again. Okay, we've seen this variation before. Okay, so white's idea is to put a knight here and possibly attack the pawn on a5 by means of bishop d2, even queen to a1. It's not going to be so easy to defend that pawn on a5. Okay, the problem now is c5 becomes weak, becomes a target anyway. Not sure if we can call it weak, but yeah, and we're trying to undermine the c4 square by getting rid of this pawn on d5. If we get rid of that pawn, we'll be able to put our knight on c4. If we don't play knight c4, black's got this idea, knight here, and then block on b4. And now a very nasty positional threat is rook to b5. And the sacrifice is a common idea in positions like this, but it makes a lot more sense if black's got a knight on d7, so that after bishop takes, pawn takes, then he can bring his knight to c5 and then attack this pawn one day with knight c5 and queen c6 or queen d7. As it is, I don't think he's got enough compensation. And, well, this is a very nice move. If he doesn't play this move, maybe black can block. Ideally, he wants a knight there, but with a knight on d7, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So maybe another idea is rook here, but yeah, c5 is just a fabulous move here. Makes things a lot more difficult for black. Yeah, this is a protected pass pawn, but realistically, it's very difficult to advance. Nice move also, controlling the c8 square. Okay, he's got this. Trying to block the diagonal. I think maybe this might have been his best chance, although white's still clearly better. Okay, now Carlsen wants to put his knight on c3. Yeah, I don't know about this move. What I'd be worried about here is this move. So black should probably try to stop it by means of king to g7, and unfortunately, Carlsen didn't do it. He actually played e4. I guess he was thinking that if pawn takes, maybe he can run with his d-pawn, but white's got a stronger threat, queen here, and he's in trouble now. Carlsen is probably lost now. Bishop e6, checkmate threat, and queen takes. And in this position, black simply resigned. White's got too many threats. Rook takes being the most dangerous one. If bishop takes, queen takes is checkmate. If he plays a move like this, queen here, we can simply take on g5. So yeah, convincing win again by Fieruzia. All right, this is game number 10, and Fieruzia is white again, and he plays the Larsen opening. And look at this move by Magnus Carlsen. He doesn't play one of the main lines. By the way, this has become a very popular variation. Knight here, e3, knight f6, bishop here, and now this surprising move, bishop d6. Normally you don't want to put your bishops right in front of your central pawns, and it looks like that bishop on c8 is going to have a hard time coming out. But it turns out that after a6, white will have to make a decision, and if he takes on c6, then black will take back with the c-pawn, and then everything makes sense, and black's bishop is ideally posted on d6, and if the bishop retreats, well, white has wasted time and black too can retreat his bishop. So this has become an incredibly popular system. Black seems to score quite well, even at Grandmaster level. It's an interesting variation. In the game, black played a5, which is not a very bookish move. So a4, knight c3, and now a3, forcing the bishop to retreat to c1, and now g6. Apparently a new move, but I don't know whether theory is based on blitz games or what, but this is not very serious. So let's see what happened. Yeah, this knight b5 move, it's a weird one. White wants to win that pawn on a3, but I think that's an incredibly dangerous idea. And now black strikes in the center. He wants to make this bishop a stronger piece. And in this position, white should probably continue with bishop to f4 and complete his development. Instead of that, he took on a3, which is a blunder, which Carlsen didn't quite exploit. Rook takes is a wonderful idea. Knight takes, but now you should just take here. The point being that after queen takes, protecting c3, black scored queen to e7. And he's picking up that knight, so he gets two pieces for the rook. If the queen blocks on e3, black can simply take on c3 and win on the spot. So that would have won for black. Instead of that, Carlsen played knight here, which I must admit, it's still a dangerous move. Black's got ideas such as bishop takes e3, queen here, still queen e7. Dangerous. Check, king to f8, but now he castles and he gets rid of all the nasty threats. Maybe black should take here and then play d4 or something, but white must be better. Now knight h6, rook to e1. Yeah, rook to c1, h5, c4, well played. d4 is basically forced. c5, making room for his knight. And yeah, white can go rook to e8 and should win pretty easily. For example, rook check, queen takes, bishop takes, and now after knight to c3, I guess maybe queen to e1, and if knight takes, then we've got knight takes, and we've managed to protect this bishop on e8. Should be winning for white. Okay, let's get back to the game and see what happened. In the game, white chose queen to c2, which is not as good. And now it gets messy. This is a nice move. There are potential sacrifices on f5. Just to defend this guy, maybe white should have played rook to a5 first. Takes, now rook takes. If pawn takes here, knight d6 looks really powerful. So pawn takes. And now rook here with the idea of rook to e7. If queens come off, then white can simply take on d4 and should be winning. Takes. Queen d3 takes. And now maybe rook here. I'm not sure if then rook, the other rook here, is a threat. Knight takes pawn, maybe not so clear. Queen d2, it's nasty. Queen takes, bishop takes, this is on, so is this. It's close to equal now. White's got this extra pawn, but not easy to support it. This looks better, and then just knight takes pawn should be a draw. Black's hoping for, white's hoping for knight takes, rook takes, and then the knight fork. But this is much better. And here, of course, black can take here, but both players were pretty short of time. So Carlsen took on c8 with the knight instead, and then it's just an endgame with the exchange down. And this is how it ended. Knight h6. And checkmate, next move. All right, let's see game number 11. Or is it number 12? Let me double check that. I think it's number 11. Okay, Carlsen is black again. Oops, bishop b7. I guess what black didn't expect white to take on c5, and he must have done one of those pre-moves with bishop b7. So should have taken here, of course. So it's just a tempo down in a Tarrasch position. Normally white would play queen here, queen d8 and knight d2. Knight d4 is possible also, but I think this position is okay for black. This pawn is actually, it is an isolated pawn, but this pawn is not on d5 still, and where quite often white can block on d4, it's already on d4, which means this diagonal is open, this other diagonal is open, making this bishop, oops, which line did I draw here? I meant this diagonal. So this bishop is a stronger piece, and sometimes black can attack the pawn on e2. Pressure. Looking for that square. And yeah, bishop takes knight, interesting. Now what white's going to do is he's going to attack those pawns, particularly the one on c6. This is a more comfortable position for white, I must say. It's a lot easier to play for white, I can tell you that. Yeah, maybe Carlsen should start thinking about defending his c-pawn. Pressure, maybe knight here, maybe queen here. This c-pawn is going to come under pretty heavy pressure. Yeah, I mean, that's... black's got some compensation there, but... perhaps this. Because f4 does weaken those squares. Like if I move my queen here, and white goes f4, then look at this diagonal. Black can bring his queen back here, and then possibly bishop to g4, and e2 is going to be pretty hard to defend. Yeah, Carlsen has just lost a pawn. He's got this little trick, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Of course, if knight takes, rook takes pawn. So black's got one of his pawns back, but white's still a pawn up. Yeah, mate is threatened. Defending his a pawn. And now this bishop gets kind of trapped. Maybe this is a threat. So yeah, this looks forced. Black needs to defend his bishop, but and now bishop takes h3. Like, yeah, bishop takes h3, and if king here, maybe we can take. And it looks like a pretty good ending for white. Instead, Carlsen played king here, and he resigned after knight takes bishop. Okay, this is game number 12. Let's see what happened. English opening with f5, attacking the pawn on f5. Now g5 is a threat, and that knight has no retreat. So d3 takes, renewing the threat against f5. And here maybe white should play bishop a3 and put the rook on d1 and attack that pawn on d6. White chose bishop b2 instead. And now he played this move anyway, so maybe he could have saved the tempo earlier on. Very simple chess by white, doubling up on the d file, attacking d6. Waiting move. And here maybe black should go f4, because if white takes that pawn, then black can take on f3. If white takes back with his bishop, then black can take on h3. And this is not really an option. I mean, just look at those pawns. No way that's going to happen. So black decided to sacrifice a piece. It doesn't seem to be sound, because if white takes on c4 now, then after knight takes c4, white can pin that knight. And I don't think black's got enough compensation here. No way. So, I don't know. He chose knight takes e5 instead, which looks like a good idea because black can't take back with the pawn, and this bishop is on again. But black can simply take on c3, and now this knight is on. So, knight takes e5 was a mistake, and black's doing just fine here. Queen to a4. Maybe that queen can retreat. Queen to f7, and black seems to be doing all right now. Knight to e6. I guess the knight's heading to g5. Yeah, white's got to keep his bishop. Maybe black can put his knight on e4. This is slightly risky, because white's got this discover attack now. Black can take here, take, check, king to f1, and takes, check in here, check. Could be a draw. I'm not sure if at some point white's king can try to run away, but with this bishop here, that looks rather unlikely, so this could be a draw. But in this position, white decided to go h4. And now after knight e4, the discover attack no longer works because black will take on e2, and then those pawns are on. So after knight e4, I think black's winning. Instead of that, Carlsen took this pawn on a2, attacking this bishop. The queen retreats, and now white takes on g5. So black has lost piece. He's got a lot of pawns for the piece, but those pawns are pretty hard to advance. Takes, yeah. This is a very powerful bishop. I think black has to trade those bishops. And now white's going to go like this. I'm not sure about this move. I think this position should be winning for white. This is a target. White could bring his rook to f4 and then start attacking that pawn. I think it's going to be impossible to defend. But playing this move makes d5 a lot weaker. And now this is a nice move. And now look at this move with a double threat. Not only attacking d5, but also threatening the discover attack. Completely winning for white. Yeah, I don't know. Where does this queen go? Like other moves, like queen e7, e4 looks totally winning for white. So this is a good practical chance for a bullet game anyway. So black's got those 3 pawns for the rook. Yeah, like if black delivers this check, then king here, rook takes pawn, and then maybe king to d5, and black can start advancing those pawns. It looks lost anyway. Yeah, those pawns look a little bit threatening, but not enough. Yeah, white's king is active now. Those pawns are doing nothing. It's all over. But this is, I like to remind you, this is a bullet game. Maybe they were really short of time, maybe 3, 4, 5 seconds left. So Carlsen tries this move. Well, I can simply just take it, of course. But white chose rook to c2 of all moves. I mean, he could bring his rook to f1 and then bring it here and take that pawn if necessary. But he actually played rook to c2, and now black is winning because after rook c2, king takes, black can simply go after this pawn. Not with this, but with this. King here, king e5, and if king takes pawn, king here, and these two are falling, and the resulting pawn ending is completely lost for white. I mean, white had played so well up to this point, and yeah, this is what happens in bullet games. You know, you can ruin everything in just one move. And instead of that, Carlsen played king to c5, and now again he could have played this, and he should be winning. But now I think it's winning for white. All white needs to do is bring his king over. Even if black's king gets to here, then white's just going to advance, and eventually he's going to make a move like this, attacking that pawn. And even if the black king goes here, white can make a move like king to g5, king g2, and then take this pawn, completely winning endgame. But instinctively he played f4, which is a huge blunder because black can take en passant. But when you only have a couple of seconds left, you don't have time for that. And Carlsen took this pawn instead, and now it's all over. I think maybe Carlsen lost some time or he resigned.
Please subscribe, or I'll hit you with my walking stick.